it's all recorded
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
theater, but here it's,
Welcome to
they
Beyond the
don't
Podium.
record it.
For those of you that came to the Titanic talk, you know my introduction. There's the podium, I'm beyond it. Say no more. Excuse me, must get a drink. This is not beer, despite the fact it's in a can. This actually is an iced latte that we bought in Bar Harbor, and they can it as you buy it. And then it keeps a little while, and of course the benefit of it is there's no ice in here, so as long as it's cool, it doesn't get diluted. Wonderful. And it's really strong, so I might get more energetic as we go along. Now I know the screen's a bit washed out. There's nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. There's no curtains here. But nonetheless, let us begin. Welcome to the Dog Talk, the joint presentation between my and my wife.
Area K9 is completely cage-free, spacious, safe and fun. Here your dog will play and rest in a packed environment under the watchful eye of knowledgeable dog professionals. Call to arrange a free interview so you and your dog can meet our team. We love loving your dog. Visit areak9.com.
That was a local radio ad. I don't expect any of you to be calling, because we live just south of Ottawa in Ontario. Me on the left, my wife on the right. Luna, please make yourself known. The reason she is being made known is because if you have questions about dog behavior, this is the person to see. If you have any questions about science, I am the person to see. And through the remainder of the voyage, anytime you see us, please don't hesitate to come up and ask questions.
Thank you.
I like to begin with something humorous on each presentation. This one I hope you can see. For those of you that can't, it says, "Beware of the dog. The cat is not trustworthy either." No apologies to cat owners. And the reason for that is 5,000 years ago we used to worship cats as gods, and they haven't forgotten. Now this is maybe not so appropriate today, but this tells you to get your camera ready, maybe to take a shot of the screen. I do not read everything that's on the screen. I just don't have time to do it. So take a picture and go back to it. Who are we? I'm an ex-research scientist. My wife is an ex-business analyst. We've had over now 100 years of experience in handling a dog because of the number of dogs that come through Area K9. We are dog behaviorists now. We have a cage-free environment, which actually is a great place for the dogs to go. They're always together, having fun, socializing. We have a changing pack, which is a fantastic training tool in certain circumstances. If we were to rename the business, we'd probably call it Dogs in the House, because that's what it is. But we are, in fact, Area K9. And this is how we live. And not every dog is in that picture when we took that picture. We will have anywhere from 5 to 25 dogs in the house at any one time. We have a license for 30. We ran it up to 28 months and we didn't like it. We won't do that again. The record holder is right in the front of that picture, 6 months stay. Another story. These are our two, Cain and Abel, Shetland sheepdogs, which unfortunately are no longer with us. Where did dogs come from? There is the common ancestor there, Hesperocyon. That was a very successful species about 40 million years ago. That species lasted for 11.5 million years. We've only been on the planet a couple of 100,000 years. From Hesperocyon came a number of different canid species. I've shown some of them up there, the Borifaginae, the Canidae, which is our dogs and other related animals today. And from that, we only have 37 species left alive. I've shown some of them up here. If you've been watching BBC on TV, you would have seen the African wild dog the other night. and jackals and hyenas. Of course, hyenas are not related, but nonetheless, it was a good show. So of the over 200 species that came from Hesperocyon, only 37 are left today. We somehow domesticated the ancestor of our dogs. At some point, probably when we transitioned from the hunter-gatherer stage of our society to a more agricultural fixed society, a relationship was made between man and these animals that came around, probably the dump sites that were left there foraging for food. And somehow we started to bring these dogs into our social circle. They kind of weren't the dogs you're thinking of today, but they were recognized for their value. And as time progressed, we bred them for specific purposes. In the early days, they were just village dogs. Nobody bred them. It was later on that we decided, yes, we can breed these. This domestication has happened at least twice, once in the Far East and once in Europe. And interestingly, most of the dogs today trace their ancestry back to the Far East. Most of the European ones have disappeared. How do we know this? We know this from the Siberian silver fox experiment. The Siberian silver fox experiment, which was started in 1959 in the Soviet Union, had one purpose in mind. That was to breed this fox for tameness. So, through all of the breeding cycles that went on, only the animals that showed tameness, friendliness to the handlers were kept in the breeding cycle. That was the only thing they were selecting for. But other things started to change all by themselves. So, for example, we see here an animal that looks like a border collie. The color changed, the snout changed, the ear shapes changed. And so other things were changing along with just this one trait that they were trying to develop. You can buy one of these today still. It was state funded, but now it's privately funded. It'll cost you about $10,000. They are still wild animals, and they don't sound like dogs. That's the Siberian silver fox. And that last sound is not the handler slapping the fox, it's one of the sounds the fox makes. There's about 360 breeds recognized by the FCI, the international organization. Other kennel clubs recognize different breeds. They break them down into different categories. The American Kennel Club, for example, recognizes 8 categories. The FCI recognizes 10 categories. But there's another way of looking at it, and that is to look at dogs that have common ancestors. Shown up here in this picture, you'll see a variety of different breeds. Each one of those breeds has a common ancestor. And a common ancestor, the progenitor of that group, that's called a clade. And there are 23 clades that have been identified so far, which means we've got different groupings. This is what the DNA analysis looks like. And as you can see, each color represents a different clade. Only 161 breeds have been studied to this point, so there is more to do, and maybe there will be more clades. If we zoom in on one, which is the green one here, and the reason I selected this is because the Shetland sheepdog is in this clade, as is the Irish wolfhound. What a difference in size between the Shetland sheepdog and the Irish wolfhound, which is the biggest of the breeds that we have today. This picture was taken at Area K9. There are 10 dogs in this picture. Our 2 are there, Cain and Abel there. They're all part of a clade. They're all part of that green clade, in fact, and of course there's great similarity in this particular group because they're all basically collies of one form or another. Well, how does a dog know a dog is a dog? Because if you look at that photograph over on the right, you'll see all kinds of different physical dissimilarities. And there's only 7 genetic regions in the dog that account for all these physical dissimilarities or similarities. We ourselves, in our own genetic code, have many more different regions that define our exterior appearance. The picture in the center shows you a Chihuahua with a Great Dane. That's a dog. It's an alien. It's a giant. How can that be a dog like me? Well, actually, they've got really good species differentiation. They know a snake is a snake, a bird is a bird. They know a dog is a dog. They know we're not 2 dogs on 2 legs. Their species differentiation is so good that they treat children differently from adults. It's like they're a different species. Why? They have squeaky voices, they jerk around, they smell differently, and the head proportion is different. This paper in 2017 is very important in understanding why dogs are our best friend. And of course, none of you, or almost none of you in this room, will understand what that title says. So this is the translation. And that says, part of the dog's genetic makeup is the same as humans who suffer from Williams syndrome. That means that dogs seem to be hardwired to love us as they think we are their best friend and act accordingly. They are so happy to be with us. That is one of the symptoms of Williams syndrome. Somebody suffering from that thinks you're their best friend. So dogs are hardwired to love us. And if dogs don't like us, who's responsible? We are. Exactly so. These photographs show some of our clients at Area K9 giving us love. Every one of these dogs that keeps coming back to us thinks we're their owner as well. And so we just live in a sea of love when we're home. It's amazing. Now, breeding has a dark side to it. On the left, we have the King Charles Spaniel. In England, at one point, the brain size was bigger than the skull. You had two choices: euthanasia because the dog was in pain, or a very expensive operation. And we have met somebody that went that route. Over on the right, we have the Bestial Show in Westminster. That is a German Shepherd. It's an American German Shepherd. And if you can't see the picture very clearly, the backbone is not horizontal. The spine is not horizontal. It's like this. Any wonder that the American breed of German Shepherds all end up with hip dysplasia. Then there's this one here, the English Bulldog. Over on the left, we have what it used to look like, and over on the right is what it typically looks like. And this breed suffers from every known ailment known to a dog. Too bad. They are trying to breed it back into the original, and in fact, we've had one come and stay with us recently. This is a dog that's been through the rebreeding of that, and it looks quite a bit like the old English Bulldog that I showed you in the previous picture. There was once thought that if you understood how a wolf pack operated, you would understand how dogs behave. This couldn't be further from the truth. A wolf pack is a dominance hierarchy. There is a family unit, there is an alpha male, there is an alpha female. These are the only two that breed. They will usually drive strangers away. They won't accept them. Sometimes they do, but usually they drive them away. And yes, wolf packs can get large sometimes. There is a record of one being as many as 37 members. Dominance hierarchy. A dog pack is not. It's a subordinates hierarchy. Males follow it religiously. Females can go up and down. They can actually challenge a top dog and take away a resource from a top dog, whereas another male would not do that. Middle-ranking dogs are the ones that are the growly dogs. They're trying to move up. The top dogs share, and the ones at the bottom know exactly where they are and won't do anything to change it. They're very submissive. So we have a loose association of social animals, and the hierarchy changes with the situation. So for example, if one dog wants the stick that's on the ground and he's a top dog, he will take that stick. Nobody will challenge him. If he does not want it, another dog can have it. So in that situation, the top dog was not the top dog. It really depends. It's very fluid. It's not size dependent. It is age dependent. The older dogs get a little bit more respect. Puppies up to the age of 4 months get away with anything. Once they hit the 4 months, bang, they start to get disciplined by the adult dogs, and they learn their place in the pack. This is Tristan. Tristan is lying on his back in our dining room, very vulnerable. He is exposed, his stomach is exposed. If you've ever seen a dog dig, you know how quickly they can make a huge hole in the ground, and they could do the same to him too. He's a top dog. Yes, I know what you're thinking. I faked the photograph, there's nobody there. Yeah, right. As you can see, I blew that part up. And over on the left, this dog here is the same breed as Tristan, but very much lower in the pack hierarchy. In fact, when that dog first came to stay with us was scared of his own shadow, but improved with time. Now, as I said, dogs don't see us as dogs on 2 feet. They know we're human. We are different. We are actually really gods to them. Don't pretend to be a dog. Don't roll your dog over and pretend to bite it with your hand. Your dog's going to go, "You're nuts. What the hell are you doing? I know you're different." But this comes out of the old training method of the dominance theory. And that had rules. For example, some of the rules are shown here. Don't allow the dog to eat before you, or go through a doorway before you, or go on the furniture, or to peer into your eyes. So correct and so wrong, and I'll cover both situations when we go through this presentation. And there's other rules as well. Now, this is not to say dogs don't like rules. They absolutely do. Your rules could even change from one room to another. The key is to be consistent. These are some tongue-in-cheek dog rules. So the picture on the top right shows somebody's got a twig in their mouth, and that's the first rule. If I like it, it's mine. If it's in my mouth, it's mine. That's the second rule. If I can take it from you, it's mine. We have a tug of war going on down here. I know it's not very clear, but here we have a golden retriever umpired by a border collie, and over there, fading into obscurity because of the bad light here, we have a Great Dane. The Great Dane and the golden retriever are pulling on a twig. Who gets it? Audience participation time. Who gets it? All I heard was mumble, 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 mumble. So I'll just tell you, the border collie got it. So if you said border collie, you got it right.
Smartest dog in the pack.
I said size didn't matter. If I saw it first, it's mine. If you're playing with it and you put it down, it automatically becomes mine. And my favorite rule is the following: if it's broken, it's yours. Now, anybody that's had any significant interaction with a dog understands the 6 basic emotions that are up on the screen right now. Happiness, sadness, fear, anxiety, anger, and love. They show all of these. And of course, love is the one that we really enjoy the most. But I tell you, there is one breed that does not have one of these emotions. It is fear. There is one breed that does not have fear. I'm holding it. It's a teacup Yorkshire Terrier. No, there's no fear. These animals have a different emotion. I call it death wish. Have you ever seen how a small teacup Yorkshire Terrier or another small breed launches itself into another dog's face? I went backwards by mistake. You probably think, oh, I'm going to buy such and such a breed and that's it. I'll know everything about that breed because that's the breed characteristics. Well, yes, some of that's true. 15% of your dog is going to be the breed characteristics. The other 85% is what you do with it. You can take a puppy in your hands and you can mold that dog, regardless of breed, into whatever you want it to be. It's all a matter of how much effort you put into it. Yes, there are some limitations. We'll talk about those as we go through it. Now, I know there's probably a few people in here that think dogs feel guilt. They don't. Let's get that out of the way. They do not feel guilt. Yes, you come home, there's something on the floor. Spot! What's that on the floor? What's this, you bad dog? What did you do? And what's Spot doing? He's sitting here quaking. And he looks guilty, doesn't he? He's not. Because he's been through this before. He knows what comes next is unpleasant. He's scared. He's not guilty. And you'll understand why when I get to the part on memory. Jealousy, that used to say something different. It used to say we were on the fence about jealousy. But now we've actually got scientific evidence that shows that dogs feel jealousy. And I see it all the time in the pack. If I give affection to one dog, I've got the rest of them around me straight away. Hey, he's getting some, I want some. Grief, like people, dogs exhibit grief very differently. Sometimes they're very sad. Sometimes they seem to mourn for a long time. This is Hachiko. You're probably familiar with the story of Hachiko. If not, I don't have time for it right now. My wife and I are standing next to Hachiko Station in Tokyo, Shibuya Station, there where Hachiko is venerated. Some dogs don't show any emotion for grief, and some dogs actually get happy. But again, that's another story I don't have time for. Inequity, yes. Dogs and wolves both know when they're not being treated equally. So if you're giving treats to your dogs and one's getting more than the other, that dog knows it. The one that's getting less knows it. Oh, poor dog. But a dog will forgive you. Wolves, on the other hand, hold a grudge. So if you've got wolves at home, be careful. Treat them the same. These are the basic emotions, and the scale on the bottom in years shows when they build into the human. So over on the left we've got distress, contentment, anger, joy, fear. And where the line just came down, everything on the left of that the dog develops, everything on the right of that the dog doesn't develop. These are the higher emotions, and that includes guilt, shame, contempt. They do not develop those emotions. We used to say that one dog year was worth 7 human years. No, I saw you nodding. No, wrong. Yes, wrong. This chart here, which you can't read, of course, but I'll walk you through it. First column, real age in years. Second column, weight of the dog. So the first column is a small dog, the next column is a medium dog, the next column is a large dog, and the one on the far right is the very big dogs like the Great Danes and the St. Bernards. So by example, let's take a dog that's equivalent to a 93-year-old person, and the dog ages on the right. You'll see for the small dog, you can get as high as 18, 19. For the extra large dog, you can only get up to 12. And in fact, most large Great Dane type dogs don't even get to double digits. Size matters, but the wrong way. The bigger the dog, the shorter the life. Fact. What a shame. How do they see? We thought they saw in black and white once upon a time. Not true. They see color. Unlike us, we have 3 color codes. We can see 3 different colors which blend together to give us the spectrum that we have. You'll see the human spectrum on that slide over on the left, the lower portion. The dogs are missing the red cone. So their view, and they have less cones, their view is more subdued and less color. And this has an impact, which we'll show you in just a minute. They have more rods than we do, so their vision in low light conditions is actually better. And so they can also detect movement better than we can. Now, over here, this is the human view. I'll pay attention to the red piece in the middle. This is the dog view. The red's gone. It looks like the grass. You throw that red ball, they follow it because it's moving. It stops in the grass. They go into a search pattern because they can't see it anymore. Now they're looking for it by smell. For those of you who've got red toys, you might have noticed this. If you want toys that your dog can see, yellow or blue, not red. All dogs, compared to us, basically are short-sighted. If my dogs were sitting way back there, where that fellow is with the green shirt up against the window, and I'm saying, yes, I'm talking about you back there, standing up, and I was standing perfectly still, they couldn't see me. Unless, of course, the wind was blowing in their direction, and then, of course, they could smell me. But once I started moving, they'd see something and they'd go and investigate it. Most dogs are short-sighted. They have another organ in their eye that we do not have. It reflects light. This is the tapetum lucidum. It reflects light back into the eye, so it enhances their vision. And the color of that depends on their diet. So usually it's green, sometimes it can be yellow. That's all dependent on the diet. Depending on the muzzle shape, if they've got a muzzle shape sort of similar to a human, in other words, a flat face, they've got peripheral vision like us. But if they've got a longer snout, like our dogs did, Shepherd sheepdogs, then they can basically see behind their heads. They've got a 270-degree vision, so harder to sneak up on that type of dog. Now, this is a paper that was published a little while ago, and basically it says that the mutual gazing between you and your dog increases the oxytocin level in both you and your dog, meaning this is a pleasurable experience for both of you, and it enhances the affiliative bond between you and your dog. It is also a mechanism by which human mothers bond with their babies, looking into their eyes and vice versa. So when you go home, have a good stare into your dog's eyes, vice versa, it's good for both of you. Taste. They have less taste buds than we do. We've got about 10,000 on average. They've got about 1,700. Yes, I know it says 9,000 up there. They got the same 5 basic tastes that we do, maybe a little bit better tuned for the food that they eat, but nonetheless, they taste food similar to us. But that's not important for them, necessarily. It is the smell that is important for them. They have somewhere between 10 to 100,000 times more information coming into them through their sense of smell than we do. They also have another organ in their nose. This is the vomeronasal nasal organ. You'll see a dog filling this when he's standing or sitting into the wind and the nose is twitching. They're filling this organ. This gives them information about the parental, social, sexual communication about our animals that is around them. Their olfactory bulb, relative to their brain, is 40 times larger than our own. That's why their sense of smell is so very, very good. Their nostrils are independent. They're breathing continuously, and because their nostrils are independent, they have some direction for where the smell is coming from. If you've got a trained dog and the wind is blowing towards them, then they know what that is as far as 100 meters away. If the dog is simply walking around as I am here, and once I get to within about 2.5 meters of somebody, I know they got something they shouldn't have. And I will sit down. And if that dog in the customs hall ever sits next to you, you're in trouble. So, with that being said about how wonderful their sense of smell is, why do they do that? Well, actually, we've got an idea now why they do this. Not so long ago, in fact, 2020, they found a new organ in the dog's nose, and it was speculated it was for measuring temperature. It was verified in a later publication, so it looks like the dog is getting a health check in terms of temperature. Because if you want to measure your dog's temperature, where do you put that thermometer? Right, exactly so. Don't touch the nose, that's a myth. Their hearing is better, and of course if dogs can move their ears, they could use it kind of like radars and home in on the sound. Of course, if you've got a basset as shown on the left there, that's a good handle item. What it's good for. You can't really see this, unfortunately, so well. This is the auditory range. In green there, you see the dog's hearing range, and it goes up into the ultrasound. The human one is the yellow line down below. So they can hear higher up than we can. So that's why dog whistles are supposed to work. Never had success with them myself. I can't hear a thing. They move differently from us. We have 2 gaits basically. We walk or we run. They have 6 gaits. They walk, amble, pace, trot, canter, 2 types, and gallop, 2 types. Amble and pace are hard to spot. What does it look like? This animation shows you. This is the walk. Amble and pace are transitions up to the trot, which is easy to spot. And as you can see, that's like a camel, both sides moving at the same time. The amble is in between that. That's trot. Canter, 2 types. One like a horse, one not like a horse. It allows them to turn very quickly. and the gallop where all four paws are off the ground. And that's all 6 gaits in one comparison. So if you've got a dog, go home and try and spot what they're doing. I'm constantly looking for that. Yes, they're hot. There are hot dogs. They're warmer body temperature than us, which is why it's nice to cuddle up to them. And as I mentioned earlier, the thermometer is up their nose. You have to put it somewhere else. Don't bother checking the nose. That won't tell you anything. Now, this is very important when we go back to the gilt. Their short-term memory is very short. It's maybe as long as, depending on the animal itself, it varies from 10 to 70 seconds. That means once you've got outside that time, they cannot relate an event to a consequence. So when you're training, you've got to react very quickly to relate that event to a consequence. Almost immediate response. Their long-term memory, on the other hand, is fantastic. But usually many repetitions are required to get from short-term into long-term. If it's a traumatic event, it'll go right into long-term memory, which is why rescue dogs can be problematic sometimes. But you can always rest assured that if you've been away for a week or a month, your dog will remember you when you go home. If you're training and you've got a dog who sleeps quite well, this work, the scientific publication here basically says, let your dog have a nap because the training sinks in more. They're basically repeating the training in their sleep. So it helps and you can train faster. Let them have a nap. How smart? Over on the left, we've got the top 10 according to Professor Stanley Coren. Over on the right, we have the bottom 10 according to Stanley Coren. A smart dog will learn a new command within 5 repetitions, will obey a learned command 95% of the time on the first utterance. Contrarily, the bottom 10 will obey that command 25% of the time if it's learned, and will take anywhere from 80 to 100 repetitions before it learns the command. Number 1, the Border Collie. My wife and I think they're an evolution on dogs. They're so damn smart, it's not funny. Number 2 is the Standard Poodle. This is the one on the bottom. This is an Afghan. And the reason Maisie is up there is because she's absolutely gorgeous. This is a brindle Afghan. You don't see these very often. Dumb as a post, but gorgeous. How smart? Again, Coren has linked their size to their intelligence. If you want an intelligent dog, on average, then you're looking to buy one that's in the medium to large size. The extra large, not so smart. The smaller dogs, not so smart. But you know, you can always raise their intelligence by training. You can get them out of their category. How does a dog's brain work? This is tongue-in-cheek. I'll go through this flow diagram a little bit. Object, can you eat it? Yes. Was it good? No. Puke it out. Re-eat it. Done. You see a variation on this in area canine. It goes like this. Object, can you eat it? Yes. Was it good? No. Puke it out. Somebody else eats it. Done. Tongue-in-cheek, but there's some truth to it. Could dogs speak? No, they can't form words, but yes, they make sounds, and some of those sounds convey meaning, and we'll go through that as we go along. How do they think? Work has been done in the past getting dogs into functional MRI, and without anesthetic and standing still, so they can look at how the dog's brain works under certain situations. Fascinating research. Here's one example. The Boston is smelling sweat on a Q-tip. On the left, the smell center is being activated. This is somebody the dog doesn't know. On the right, the reward center is being activated because that's the owner's sweat. The dog is pleased to smell the owner's sweat. Who's got a dog? When you go home, grab your dog, stuff it up your armpit. It's fun! See? Science proved it. This is an amazing finding. Again, through functional MRI, we found that dogs like a belly rub more than a food treat. Now this is great because if you're out with your dog and you didn't bring any treats with you, you can reward your dog because you have you with you. You've always got you with you. And that's the best reward for your dog. So use yourself and give the dog a treat. What about language? Rico here knew about 200 words. They learn language. You either teach it as English as a second language, or they learn it without you knowing that they learned it. They are always learning from you, whether you know it or not. But the record holder is here, Chaser. Chaser is no longer with us, but Chaser could identify over 1,000 toys by name. The owner worked assiduously with Chaser. Border Collie, of course. In this photograph, you see some of the objects Chaser knows. And Chaser was so smart that Chaser could identify a new object by inference. In other words, the owner would give the dog a name that the dog had never heard of. There was a group of toys with a toy that the dog did not know, but the dog knew what the other words were. I have a strange word, I have a new toy. Did the linking by itself. That's smart. So in the top panel, the owner is telling the dog off. I know you can't read it in this. And in the bottom panel, the only thing that the dog can hear is blah, 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 ginger, blah, 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 ginger, blah, blah, blah. Yes, the emotion is clear. Dogs can read us like a book when it comes to emotion. Unless you've taught the dog your language, it doesn't know what you're saying. Another functional MRI experiment with humans and dogs, looking at how the brain reacted to certain words and sounds. And they found that with dogs and humans, it was the same thing. The left side of the brain is interpreting the meaning. The right side of the brain is interpreting the emotion. Couple these two things together so that the dog understands. Don't miscouple it. Don't give the wrong emotion with a meaning that you want. You'll confuse the dog. Be consistent. Amazing finding. How do they speak to each other? Well, they do. You have to look at the whole dog, and everything flashing up on the screen to another dog conveys meaning. And dogs are generally moving all the time. Something's moving all the time, and that's conveying meaning to other dogs. And if you understand dog speak, it's conveying meaning to you too. We'll go through some of them. But the point is, you need to take a whole of the dog. So the ears, the mouth, the tail, the body stance, the energy level in the dog, all add together, or some of them actually subtract from each other, so you can tell what the dog is thinking. I'm not going to go through all of these bullets, I don't have time. The picture on the lower right shows a dog in active submission. Lowered body, head down, paw up, showing, I don't know what to do, please give me direction. This is Patch, he's just entered, he's got pelar erection all down his spine, his tail is high. He's telling Bentley, leave me alone, I'm not comfortable. And if you don't leave me alone, I might get angry. So he's giving Bentley a warning. That goes away within seconds. Ears, one I'll concentrate here. Generally, we think that when the ears are pulled back, the dog's scared. No. If it's your dog, the ears pulled back means respect. The dog is showing you respect. So you got to look at the whole dog to figure out what that means. Eyes. Now this is when you don't look into another dog's eyes. If the dog is one you do not know, a direct stare into the dog's eyes is a challenge. And depending on the dog's personality, that can result in something that you might not like. So avoid staring into strange dogs' eyes because it's a challenge. The mouth. Of course, we can have lovely smiles in dogs. I don't know how they learn to smile, but they do. That picture shows a lovely smile. But as aggression rises in the dog, the C shape at the back of the dog's mouth, you can see teeth. But the more pronounced that C shape is in the mouth, shows rising aggression. And this is something you want to calm down. The sound, yes, they can do sounds. One we hear quite constantly where we are, there's a dog that lives over the road from us. Sometimes he gets put out in the yard by himself and we hear this bark, bark, bark. And basically the dog's saying, is anybody there? I'm lonely. This single bark, and our pack generally just ignores it. What a shame. Should come visit. The tail, complicated. The tail is relative to the rest position of the dog. Yes, breed will give you some indication about it, but it is dog specific. Huskies in general have tails high. Italian Greyhounds have tails low, but another dog in that breed may have a different position. So you've got to understand the rest position of the dog to be able to interpret the tail. And there's lots of information from the tail. The wag too, the direction of the wag. If the dog is wagging predominantly to the right, they like it. If the wag is predominantly to the left, they don't like it and in fact may want to back away. So a wagging tail doesn't always mean they're happy. You've got to look at the speed, the position, and the direction. Food, I'm not going to talk about this. Basically, don't give them human food. That's been processed. It's got stuff in there that's not good for them. No spices. Don't do that. Look it up. If you took a picture of that, look it up. But don't give them human food. 3 case studies we're going to look at now. The first one is 2 Labradors with food in between them. And I hope you can see this because this is fascinating. So there's 2 labs. They're facing each other. Next to the one with his back to us is some food on the ground. And so try and figure out as this goes along who's going to get the food. I'll point out some features as we progress. So we've got the one sitting down now. Is that a claim on the food? The eye lines were direct in the beginning. The eye lines are no longer direct. They're looking past each other. Head lowered on the one at the back, showing no threat. A gradual step forward. The one on the right, and I don't think you'll be able to see it because of the light conditions here, is going to do something very important at one point. There's going to be a lip lick, which you'll be able to spot if you're concentrating on the muzzle. And that lip lick shows a great deal of uncertainty and is also the beginning of the end for that dog sitting down.
Oh, you just gave it up.
Did it just happen?
You just gave it up?
That's fine because I can't see it so well. We step forward again, head down. Again, the eye lines are not at each other. Now we have 2 sitting dogs. A quick glance over to the left to see what that one's doing. We're getting close. Yes, this is the cunning move. I call this the cunning move as we lie down. Oh, there's food here! I better try it. And the one on the right gives up and goes away. This is how a top dog enters Area K9. This is Bentley. He's a golden retriever, very unusual for being a golden retriever. That's Simon trying to assert himself, a middle-ranking dog, definitely not top of the pack. And Bentley wanders in, basically ignoring everybody. That's how top dogs behave. Even ignores Simon. Simon really doing his best there to try and get Bentley's attention, but failing. That's a King Shepherd saying hello to Bentley. Bentley's tail remains high all through this process. It's got a very non-threatening body posture, just walking around, basically letting everybody know that he's a top dog by his attitude. And at this point, he's integrated into the pack. He's now noticing dogs more, with a little bit of interaction with them, allowing them to socially interact with him. And that's it. Bentley is now integrated. On the contrary, this is a low-level ranking dog coming in. This is Angel. Angel is a white shepherd husky mix. There she is. She will constantly be looking at Ludo for safety and security and reassurance. Her body posture is going to change throughout this introduction, so she gets a little bit more comfortable. The tail is down, it will come up. The dog right next to Ludo.
Great job. Great job.
There, barking is Tristan, who we saw earlier. He will be redirected by asking him to do something he does well, which is Sept. There's Simon again. Just ain't getting a reward. There's Angel. And she's a little more relaxed at this point. And she's going to say, well, I've done my duty, I've met everybody, I've had enough of this, and she's going to go back inside. And there she goes. That was case study 3. Displacement. Displacement is a behavior dogs do when they're slightly stressed. And the most common one we see is shaking. If they're playing a little bit too hard, they bump into each other, maybe one will stop, maybe they'll both stop, they'll shake off the stress and they'll go right back to it. Other behaviors occur if there is more fear involved. You'll see drooling and whining and some other things there that are listed up on the screen. That happens if there's a little bit more fear involved. How do you communicate with your dog? Through training, teaching them English as a second language. There's only two things you can do in dog language directly to a dog. One is blinking, it's a calming gesture. The other one is yawning. That's a calming gesture too. And of course you can understand what they're saying, so you have an advantage in that respect. You can get their attention better if you speak excitedly to them. They will react better. It's kind of like speaking to a baby. Oh, what a good dog you are! Oh, you're such a good dog! Oh, very good. Something like that. They love it. Are you done? No, you're never done. This is a lifetime project with your dog. You should be taking them to new places all the time. You should be reinforcing the training all the time under unusual circumstances. They love it when you give them attention. So you're never done. This is the zero dog. Apologies, Leo. Louis, he's not a zero dog. He was just sitting still for the photograph. A zero dog is one that gives no signals whatsoever except the eyeballs that move. If you ever come across a dog like this, do not look at the dog's eyes. Move away, because that dog can explode on you in a way you don't want. A health study that was done in Scandinavia involving 3.4 million people, looking at the effect of having a dog in your house. Here are the results. For single people, if you had a dog in your house compared to somebody that did not have a dog in the house, then your risk of cardiovascular death was 36% lower. Your risk of death was 33% lower. Your risk of heart attack was 11% lower. For multi-person households, a family, the improvements were still there, but they were less. The takeaway message is clear. Go home, get divorced, and live with your dog.
Does it multiply with multiple dogs?
Another very important study that was done, again involving quite a few people. This was looking at the effect of having a dog in the household on children. We have things living on us. It's called a biome. Dogs have things living on them. It's called a biome. They're different. Your dog will share their biome with your biome and vice versa. And for infants, it strengthens their immune system. So dogs for small children are a health advantage. This is my final word. These are some dog books that you can read. Lots of good information. There's a lot of good dog books out there. But the very best dog book that's out there is, of course, the one we wrote. And yes, we did. And the reason we wrote this book is because of people like yourself. After we give this talk, and my wife generally gives a dog behavior workshop, but there's no time on this voyage, people come up and ask us questions like, do you have a source? Do you have a DVD? Do you have a book? We had it so many times that we thought, okay, go write the book. We did. And that's where you can get it from. Let me just reinforce any questions, any time during the voyage, what's left of the voyage. There's the expert, the dog behavior, I'm the scientist. Thank you so much.